The great star station named Meridian stood in the middle of the galaxy like a shining jewel. Its giant rings spun slowly, keeping the station steady while thousands of ships came and went each day. Inside, there were markets, halls, arenas, and meeting chambers where many alien races gathered. It was a place of trade, of culture, and sometimes of rivalry. On this day, a crowd was gathering in the central arena, for a duel was about to be announced. The duel had not yet been fought, but everyone already whispered about it. The name spoken again and again was Kura. She was a tall alien warrior from the Zarek species. Her people were famous across the stars for their strength and honor. Kura had already won many battles in the arena, facing strong challengers from other warrior races. She never lost, and she often reminded others that no species could match the Zarek in combat. Kura stood in the center of the arena, her tall frame covered in shining armor of bronze and steel. Her four eyes glowed with pride, and her strong arms rested on the handle of her curved blade. Around her, the audience filled the seats, waiting for her voice. She raised the blade above her head, and the sound of metal rang through the air. Silence followed. "Listen well," Kura declared, her voice deep and steady. "The Zarek have fought countless battles. We have faced claws, fangs, and fire from other species. We have never fallen. And now, I say this, if humans claim they belong among the strong, let one of them face me here. Let them prove with courage, not with words." The crowd roared with excitement. Aliens of many kinds shouted in their own languages, some cheering, some laughing. The dual challenge of a Zarek was no small matter. To refuse would mean shame, and to accept meant likely defeat. Many humans lived on Meridian Station, but most kept their heads low at that moment. None of them wished to be crushed in front of a thousand eyes dot in the front rows. A group of humans watched quietly. Some looked away, pretending they did not hear. Others whispered to one another, saying it was foolish to even consider stepping into the arena. The Zarek were built for battle. They had muscle, speed, and armor like skin. A human had no chance. But one woman stood among them. Her name was Lena. She was not tall, and she was not armed with heavy weapons. She worked as a mechanic on small ships and was known more for her careful hands than for any skill in combat. Still, as she watched Kura standing proud in the arena, something burned inside her. She felt the stares of the other aliens who mocked humans as weak. She saw the silence of her own kind, afraid to even try. Lena stepped forward. Her boots echoed on the stone floor as she walked down the steps toward the arena. The other humans gasped. Some tried to call her back, but she did not stop. She walked with steady steps until she stood on the edge of the platform. The crowd grew silent, surprised that any human would answer. Kura's four eyes locked on her. For a moment, the warrior looked confused. Then she gave a laugh that shook the air. "This is what humanity offers me, a small mechanic with no armor, no strength, and no blade. I asked for courage, but I did not expect foolishness." Lena's face stayed calm. Her voice was steady, though not loud. "You asked for a human to face you. I am here. I will fight you." The crowd burst into shouts. Again, this time louder than before. Some laughed, some cheered, some demanded that the match begin at once. Kura tilted her head, still smiling with sharp teeth. "Do you know what you are asking, little human? Do you know that once the duel begins, it ends only in victory or defeat? There will be no mercy." Lena nodded once. "I know, and still I will fight." For a moment, Kura studied her with a serious gaze. Then she raised her blade high again. "So be it. Tomorrow, when the sun of Meridian rises, you and I will face each other. Let the station witness the truth of this challenge." The official of the arena, a tall insect-like being with crystal eyes, stepped forward and declared the duel accepted. The time and place were set. The crowd roared once more, filling the air with energy. Lena turned and walked back toward her people. Some of the humans looked at her with shock. A few even looked angry, as if she had embarrassed them by stepping forward. But others looked at her with something new in their eyes, something like hope. One man whispered, "Why would you accept this? You cannot win." Lena stopped and answered simply, Because someone must stand. If we always hide, then the galaxy will believe humans are weak forever. If we try, at least they will know we have courage. That night, the arena emptied, but the story spread across the entire station. Aliens repeated the news in the halls, in the markets, and on the ships. A human accepted Kira's challenge. Some laughed, saying it was madness. Others were curious, wondering what gave the human such bravery. In her small room, Lena sat alone. She had no heavy armor, no advanced weapons. She only had a light staff she sometimes used for exercise. She placed it on the floor before her and looked at it. She thought about Kira's strength, about the blade that could cut through steel, about the armor that would be impossible to break. Fear tried to rise inside her, but she pushed it away. She whispered to herself, strength is not only in the arm. Strength is also in the heart. Tomorrow, I will not let them laugh at us. The lights of the station dimmed as the cycle ended. Across Meridian, people of many species spoke of the duel to come. In every corner, the name Lena was spoken. Some said she was brave, some said she was foolish, but no one could deny this truth. When Kura called for a human to fight, Lena answered. And in that answer, something had already changed. The night cycle of Meridian Station stretched long and quiet, but inside Lena's small quarters, there was no rest. The room was no larger than a shipping crate. A narrow bed pressed against one wall, and a single table stood in the center. On that table lay her staff, a simple pole made of reinforced alloy, smooth and plain with no decoration. It looked unimpressive when compared to the curved blade of Kura, the Zarek warrior. Yet Lena sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at it as if it carried the weight of the galaxy. Her mind replayed the cheers and laughter of the crowd. She remembered Kira's towering frame, the polished armor, the sharp teeth shown in a grin of pride. She also remembered the whispers from her own kind, some doubtful, some angry, but a few filled with hope. That small spark of hope gave her strength now. She knew the duel would not just be about her. It would be about all of humanity. Lena stood and lifted the staff. It felt light in her hands, almost too light to face a warrior like Kura. But weight was not the only answer to battle. She held the staff before her, breathing slowly. She swung, blocked, and stepped through patterns she had learned during her years of exercise training. She was not a soldier, not even a fighter by trade. Yet she had discipline. She believed discipline could become her shield. Outside her room, voices began to gather. A few humans had come, curious about the one who dared to accept the duel. Among them was Omar, a technician who often worked beside Lena repairing ship engines. He knocked softly on her door and spoke in a quiet voice. Lena, may I come in? She lowered her staff and opened the door. Omar stepped inside, his face filled with worry. You should not do this. The Zarek live for battle. They are born with muscles stronger than any human. No trick, no plan will stop Kura. She will crush you. Lena gave a small smile. You are right. I cannot fight her strength. So I will not. I will fight her mind instead. Omar shook his head. The mind is clever, but the body is still flesh. Do you truly believe you can stand against her? I must. Lena replied, if I do not try, then tomorrow humans will walk these halls. In shame, they will say we are cowards who cannot face a challenge, even if I fall. I will show that we have the courage to step forward. Omar looked at her for a long time, then nodded slowly. Then I will help. At least let me show you something. He pulled a small data chip from his pocket and placed it on her table. The projector lit up, showing recordings of Kura's past battles in the arena. The images filled the wall. They watched Kura fight against massive reptilian beasts, armored, insect soldiers, and even other Zarek. Each time she used speed and raw strength, finishing the fight quickly with powerful strikes. Lena studied carefully. She noticed that Kura always began strong, relying on intimidation. She saw that when opponents resisted longer than expected, Kura became impatient. Her swings grew wider, her steps heavier. She relied on power, not patience. Do you see? Omar asked. She grows angry when challenged, but still, her strength is beyond measure. Even her anger is dangerous. Lena nodded. Yes, but anger makes her blind. If she cannot control it, I can use it against her. She spent hours watching the recordings again and again. She slowed them down, studying each movement. She noticed the way Kira's blade always arched from her right side when she tried to finish a fight. She noticed the way her foot slid too far when she stepped forward in rage. These were small details, but they were details Lena could use. When Omar left, Lena trained alone. She moved across the floor, practicing her dodges and counters. She imagined Kira's heavy swings. Imagine the force of her blade, and then pictured herself moving aside at the last second. She struck with her staff, not to wound, but to redirect and unbalance. She told herself again and again, I cannot match her power, but I can turn her power against her. Meanwhile, across the station, Kura was preparing in her own way. Inside the Zarek quarters, a grand hall rang with the sound of steel clashing against steel. Kura trained with her fellow warriors, swinging her blade with unstoppable force. Her people cheered her name, proud of her courage. One young Zarek asked, Why waste your time on a human? They are weak. This duel is not worth your honor. Kura smiled, her sharp teeth glinting. That is why it matters. The galaxy must see what happens when a weak race dares to challenge the Zarek. I will end the fight with a single strike. Then no one will ever question our strength. She struck the training dummy with a blow so strong that it split in two. Her people cheered louder. Kira's pride grew with every voice. She imagined the human falling before her and the crowd roaring in triumph in her mind. The duel was already one dot back in Lina's room. Silence returned. She placed her staff against the wall and sat on her bed. Her arms ached from training, her body tired, but her spirit was calm. She looked out the small window at the stars beyond the station. Each star was a world, each world filled with life, and among them, humanity was small, still new to the galactic stage. She whispered to herself, Tomorrow, I will carry our name. Tomorrow, I will not stand alone. Every human on this station will stand with me in spirit. The night cycle ended, and the first light of the station's artificial sun spread through the corridors. The day of the duel had come. Already the arena was filling with voices. Alien tongues mixing in waves of sound. Merchants sold food outside, banners waved, and excitement filled the air. The story of Lena and Kura had spread far and wide, drawing a crowd larger than any seen in recent months. Lena stood from her bed, stretched her arms, and lifted her staff. Her hands no longer trembled. Her steps were steady as she walked out of her room. She passed other humans in the hallway. Some avoided her gaze, still afraid. Others looked at her with quiet respect. A few gave her small nods of encouragement. Omar waited by the lift that led to the arena. Are you ready? He asked. Lena answered, Yes, more than ever. As the doors closed and the lift carried her upward, Lena knew there was no turning back. The time of preparation was over. Ahead of her was the arena, the challenge, and the warrior who believed humans were weak. Lena tightened her grip on the staff and breathed deeply. No matter the outcome, she would face the duel with courage. And in that courage, she hoped to show the galaxy the true spirit of humanity. The central arena of Meridian Station was alive with noise. The seats were full, stretching in wide circles around the stone platform where battles were fought. Alien voices blended together into a great wave of sound. Some shouted in excitement, others mocked, and many simply waited to see the clash. The duel between the human Lena and the warrior Kura had drawn more attention than anyone expected. Merchants stood at the gates, selling food and small flags. Children from different species leaned forward, eager to see a fight that would become part of station history. Even the station officials had prepared the arena with special lights that cast bright beams across the floor, giving the event a grand appearance. In the waiting chamber below the arena, Lena stood quietly. Her hands rested on the staff that leaned against her shoulder. She listened to the sound of the crowd above, and her heart beat faster. Yet her breathing was steady, and her face was calm. She had trained all night, studied every move of her opponent, and prepared her mind, Fear tried to press in, but she pushed it away. An insect-like official entered the chamber. Its crystal eyes glowed as it spoke in a clear tone. "The time has come, human. Are you ready to walk into the arena?" Lena nodded. "Yes, I am ready." The official gestured to the gate. The heavy doors began to rise with a loud grind of metal. Bright light poured into the chamber, and the sound of the crowd became even louder. Lena stepped forward, her boots striking the stone floor with firm rhythm. When she appeared, the crowd roared. Some cheered, some laughed, but all eyes were on her. She wore no armor, only light gear and simple clothes suited for movement. In her hands was the plain staff, small compared to the shining blades of other warriors. Still, she walked with her head high, her gaze steady. On the other side of the arena, Kura entered. The Zarek warrior looked like a moving wall of metal. Her armor shone under the bright lights, and her curved blade gleamed as she raised it above her head. The crowd cheered louder, chanting her name. Kura moved with pride, her eyes scanning the arena. When she saw Lena standing across from her, she gave a sharp smile. "Human," Kura called, her voice echoing through the space. "I respect your courage for standing here, but your courage will not save you. This fight will end quickly." Lena lifted her staff and held it across her body. Her voice was calm. "We will see." The official stepped between them and raised both arms. The arena fell silent. The duel between Kura of the Zarek and Lena of humanity begins now. The rules are simple. The fight continues until one can no longer stand or yield. May honor guide both fighters. The official stepped back. A deep drum sounded once, marking the start of the duel. Kura wasted no time. She charged forward with a speed that surprised even the crowd. Her blade swung in a wide arc, meant to strike Lena down in a single blow. Many aliens shouted, believing the fight would end instantly. But Lena moved. She stepped aside with quick precision, the blade missing her by a breath. The force of the swing cut a deep mark into the stone floor. The crowd gasped. Kura turned and swung again, faster this time. Lena ducked low and rolled to the side, her staff tapping the ground to steady her. The blade sliced the air above her, sharp and deadly. But it did not touch her. For several strikes, Lena dodged. She never tried to block the heavy weapon. Instead, she moved with light steps, each time letting the blade pass by. Her eyes stayed focused, her breathing steady. The crowd began to murmur. They had expected the human to fall at once, yet she remained on her feet, moving like water around the storm of steel. Some began to cheer for her, surprised at her calmness. Others shouted louder for Kura, urging her to finish it. Kura's eyes narrowed. She had expected an easy victory. Instead, she found her attacks striking only air and stone. "Stand still and fight," she growled. Swinging harder. Lena did not answer. She continued to dodge, her staff rising only to deflect a strike just enough to pass by her shoulder. Each movement was precise, not wasted. She was not trying to overpower Kura. She was waiting. The minutes stretched on. Kura's heavy strikes grew louder and wilder. Sweat glistened on her skin beneath the armor. She had entered the duel certain of victory, but now frustration burned inside her. The human was still standing, and worse, the crowd was starting to cheer her name. "Lena, Lena." Some voices shouted, while others still called for Kura. The sound filled the arena, creating a mix of support and doubt. Lena's eyes never left her opponent. She saw the pattern forming. Kura was strong, but her strength was becoming her weakness. Each wide swing left her open for a moment, and each missed strike made her angrier. Lena's plan was working. She only had to keep steady until the right moment arrived. Kura raised her blade high and swung downward with a roar. Lena sidestepped, letting the weapon crash into the stone. She tapped the flat of the blade with her staff, guiding it just far enough to throw Kura off balance. The crowd gasped again, amazed that such a small weapon could move such power. Kura stepped back and breathed hard. Her teeth showed in a snarl. "You cannot run forever, human. Sooner or later, I will cut you down." Lena finally spoke, her voice calm and clear. Strength is not enough. To win, you must control yourself. Her words echoed across the arena. Reaching every corner, the crowd grew louder, divided between those who wanted to see Kira's power and those who admired the human's bravery. The duel continued, and with every passing moment, it became clear that this was no simple fight. It was more than a clash of weapons. It was a battle of spirit. One side fought with pride and force, the other with patience and calm. The Galaxy watched, and the outcome was still uncertain. But one truth was already clear. Lena had not come to the arena to be crushed in the first strike. She had come to show that humans could stand, endure, and fight with courage. And as the duel entered its next stage, that courage began to shine brighter than ever. The clash in the arena had already lasted longer than anyone expected. For most duels with Kira, the end came within minutes. Her blade cut through even the strongest opponents, and her towering strength left no room for resistance. But this time the story was different. The human Lena still stood, calm and steady, her light steps carrying her out of reach again and again. The crowd was no longer only cheering for Kira. Voices now rose for Lena as well. Some shouted in disbelief, some in excitement. Children pointed and laughed with joy at every close dodge. Traders leaned forward in their seats, their eyes wide as if watching a miracle. The sound was like a storm, mixed with surprise and wonder. Kira felt the shift. Her eyes narrowed as she heard the name of the human echo across the arena. Her grip on the curved blade tightened. Anger burned in her chest. She had promised a swift victory. Yet the fight stretched on. Each moment Lena remained standing was a strike to her pride. She raised her voice so that all could hear. You run well, human, but running is not fighting. Stand and face me with strength if you dare. Lena held her staff before her, her expression calm. Fighting is not only strength. It is also knowing when to move and when to strike. You fight with anger, Kira, and anger blinds you. The words stung. The crowd responded with a roar, some cheering at Lena's courage. Kira's chest heaved with fury. With a growl, she charged again, swinging her blade with renewed force. Lena focused, her eyes sharp. She had studied these movements, practiced these patterns each time Kira swung wide. Lena stepped aside and tapped the blade with her staff to guide it farther away. Each time Kira lunged forward, Lena sidestepped, forcing her to stumble slightly. The crowd gasped with every shift, realizing the human was not only surviving but slowly controlling the pace. Kira's heavy strikes began to slow. Her armor, though strong, weighed her down. Sweat dripped from her brow. Her roars grew louder, but her accuracy faltered. Lena's light gear allowed her to move freely, and she used every advantage at one moment. Kira swung so hard that her blade struck the stone wall of the arena, sending sparks into the air. The crowd gasped. Lena seized the chance. She leaped forward and struck with her staff, not at Kira's body, but at her wrist. The strike forced Kira to release her grip slightly, and her blade nearly slipped. The arena exploded with noise. Some shouted in disbelief, others cheered wildly. The idea that a human could disarm even for a moment a warrior of the Zarak was unthinkable. Kira pulled back, her teeth bared. Her pride burned hotter than fire. You dare touch me, human, she shouted. Lena's voice remained calm. This is not about daring. This is about showing that humans will not be dismissed. The words reached the crowd. They echoed through the arena, carried on the waves of noise. More voices began to cheer Lena's name. Her calmness, her patience, and her courage were winning hearts even as the fight continued. Kira roared and swung again, faster and harder. But Lena's eyes stayed focused. She saw the wide arcs, the overextended steps, the moments of imbalance. She moved like water, flowing around each strike. She used her staff not as a weapon of destruction, but as a tool to redirect, to guide, to frustrate. Minutes passed, and the shift became clear. At first, Kira had controlled the duel with power. Now Lena guided it with patience. Kira fought with strength, but strength without control began to collapse under its own weight. The Zarak warrior breathed heavily, Her chest rose and fell, her arms heavy with the weight of the blade. Her pride pushed her forward, but her body slowed. Lena, though tired, still moved with light steps. Her eyes never wavered. Finally, Kura raised her blade high above her head. She gathered all her remaining energy into one mighty strike. The blade glowed in the arena lights. A weapon meant to end the duel once and for all. The crowd held its breath, waiting for the final moment. Lena did not step back. She waited, her staff held low, her eyes fixed on Kira's movements. She had studied the strike in the recordings. She knew the pattern. She knew the weakness. Kira roared and brought the blade down with all her strength. The stone cracked beneath the weight of the strike. But at the last moment, Lena stepped forward instead of back. She angled her staff against the blade and guided it just enough to the side. The weapon missed her body and struck the floor with crushing force. The ground shook. The sudden redirection unbalanced Kura. Her arms trembled, her footing slipped. She staggered forward, her peripheral roar turning into a gasp of shock. The warrior who had never been touched in the arena now struggled to keep her balance. The crowd erupted in shouts, half in disbelief, half in wild cheering. The human had not only survived, but had turned the mighty strike into a mistake. Lena stepped back, raising her staff calmly. Her voice rang clear across the arena. Strength without control will always fall. The words echoed, striking deeper than any weapon. The crowd shouted louder, their voices shaking the walls of the arena. Some called her brave, some called her clever, but none could deny her skill. Kura caught her balance, her chest heaving. She stared at Lena with all four eyes, fury and respect mixing in her gaze. For the first time in her career, she realized the duel might not end the way she expected. The human was no longer just a challenger. She was turning the battle. The arena floor was cracked and scarred from Kira's heavy strikes. Dust hung in the air. Glowing under the bright lights, the roar of the crowd rolled like thunder across the chamber. Shaking the walls, every pair of eyes was locked on the two figures in the center. Kura, the proud Zarek warrior, stood with her curved blade pressed into the stone. Her chest rose and fell with heavy breaths, and sweat glistened beneath her armor. Across from her, Lena stood calm, holding her plane, staff in both hands. She was tired, her arms sore, but her stance remained steady. The duel had gone far longer than anyone imagined. A human was not supposed to last even a few minutes against a Zarek. Yet here Lena was, not only standing, but forcing Kura into mistakes. The crowd no longer laughed. Many cheered, their voices carrying the human's name across the arena. Kura heard those cheers, and her pride burned for her. The Zarek were the strongest species in the galaxy, and no weak human should have lasted this long. She clenched her blade and growled, her four eyes glowing with rage. "This ends now," she declared, her voice deep and sharp. "I will not be made a fool before the galaxy. Human, prepare yourself for the final strike." The crowd hushed, every being leaned forward, waiting to see how the duel would end. Lena tightened her grip on the staff. Her heart pounded, but her face showed no fear. She knew Kura would pour all her strength into this final move. She also knew that if she tried to meet strength with strength, she would fall. The only path was patience, timing, and the courage to step forward when others would step back. Kura raised her curved blade high, the muscles of her arms flexing as she drew on all her power. The light gleamed off the metal, making it shine. Like fire, she let out a roar that shook the air and leaped into the air, aiming to bring the blade down with unstoppable force. It was the strike of a champion, the strike that had ended countless duels. The crowd shouted in awe as the mighty warrior descended. But Lena did not run. She waited. She kept her eyes fixed on Kira's chest, not the blade. She saw the angle, the direction, the slight opening in the armor where two plates met. At the last possible moment, Lena moved. She stepped forward instead of back. With her staff, she struck that exact weak point, not with power, but with perfect precision. The staff struck the joint where Kira's armor bent, forcing her body to twist. Kira's blade missed its mark. Instead of striking Lena, it smashed into the stone floor. cracking it apart. The force of the impact shook the entire arena, but Kira's balance was gone. Her feet slid across the dust, her knees bent, and her massive frame fell forward. The warrior who had never been unbalanced, never been touched by an opponent, now crashed onto the stone. Her blade slipped from her hand and clattered across the ground. The arena went silent. For a long breath, no one moved, no one spoke. The sound of Kira's fall echoed through every corner of the chamber. Lena stood above her, her staff lowered but steady. She breathed hard, her body aching from the effort, but she remained on her feet. Her eyes stayed calm, fixed on the warrior before her. The silence broke with a wave of sound. The crowd erupted, shouting and cheering so loud it seemed the arena itself would shake apart. Aliens of every kind cried out in disbelief and amazement. Many chanted the human's name, raising their hands in respect. Lena did not raise her staff in victory. Instead, she stepped closer to Kura, who struggled to rise. The Zarek warrior's pride fought against her body's weakness. She pushed herself onto her knees, her eyes filled with fury and disbelief. Lena extended her hand. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Stand, warrior. The fight is done." Kura stared at the hand. For a moment, she looked ready to refuse. Her pride screamed at her to rise on her own, to deny the human's help. But as she looked into Lena's eyes, she saw no mockery, no arrogance. She saw respect. Slowly, Kura took the hand Lena pulled her up. The crowd roared again, louder than before. The image of the human helping the mighty Zarek warrior to her feet would be remembered for years to come. Kura stood, her chest heaving. She looked down at Lena, towering over her. For a long moment, she was silent. Then her voice rang out, strong enough for the entire arena to hear. "Humans are not weak. This duel has shown me that courage and patience can defeat even the strongest blade. I, Kura of the Zarek, give honor to this human who has stood against me." The crowd erupted into thunderous cheers. Many alien voices shouted Lena's name. Some who once mocked humans now looked at them with new eyes. The duel had changed something deep within the hearts of those who watched. Lena lowered her staff and gave a small nod. She did not smile with pride or boast. She only said, "Thank you for the fight, Kura. Honor comes not from victory, but from respect." Those words struck the crowd as strongly as the final strike of the duel. They echoed in the minds of every being who listened. Kura bent her head in respect. "You have given me more than a fight. You have given me understanding." The two stood together in the center of the arena. Warrior and human, no longer opponents but equals. The crowd kept cheering, the sound rolling across the station, spreading through the halls, the markets, and into the ships waiting outside. News of the duel would travel far beyond Meridian, carried across the galaxy as a story of courage. For now, Lena stood tall, her staff at her side, knowing that the galaxy no longer saw her people the same way. Humanity was no longer the silent race at the edge of the crowd. They had stepped into the arena, and they had proven themselves. The duel was finished, but what it began was only just starting. The duel was over, but its echoes still moved through every corner of Meridian Station. The images of the fight spread faster than ships could fly. Screens replayed the moment Lena stepped forward and struck the opening in Kira's armor. Everywhere, beings of many shapes and colors gathered to watch. They whispered, argued, and marveled. For the first time, humans were being spoken of as equals. Lena walked through the corridors of the station with her staff strapped to her back. Crowds greeted her with cheers, bows, and even songs. Some tried to reach out and touch her arm as she passed, as if touching her would give them courage. Lena gave small nods of thanks, but kept her steps calm. She did not let pride control her heart. Beside her walked Kura. The Zarek warrior kept her head high, her tall frame casting a long shadow. Though she had lost, she walked with dignity. Many expected her to be bitter, but instead, she showed respect to the human she once mocked. Her presence silenced those who might have spoken against Lena. If a Zarek warrior gave honor to him, human, who could deny it? In a chamber above the arena, the Council of Meridian gathered. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in tall seats shaped to their forms. Some were scaled, some feathered, some with glowing eyes that never blinked. At the center stood a wide table, glowing with maps of the galaxy. The duel had forced them to meet, for it had shaken the order of things. A tall being with silver skin spoke first. His voice was calm but sharp. This human has shown skill, but skill in a duel does not make a people strong. We must decide what this means. Another, a small creature with wings, fluttered above its seat. It means the humans are not to be ignored. For years they sat quietly on their world, sending few ships beyond. Now one of them has shown courage greater than most. We cannot act as if nothing has changed. The council argued, their voices rising. Some feared humans might upset the balance of power. Others saw them as possible allies. At last, the council leader, a being of pure light whose form shifted like fire, raised a hand. The chamber grew silent. "We will hear from the warrior herself," the leader said. "Bring Lena to us." Moments later, Lena and Kura entered the chamber. The great hall felt quiet as the human walked to the center. Her simple clothes and calm step stood in sharp contrast to the shining robes and glowing armor of those around her. Yet none could look away from her. The leader spoke. "Human, you have stood in the arena and faced one of the greatest warriors of our time. You did not only survive, you won. Tell us, what do humans seek? Do you wish to rise as conquerors, or to take power among the stars?" The question hung heavy. Many in the chamber leaned forward, waiting to see if the human would reveal ambition or greed. Lina's voice was steady. "Humans do not seek to rule. We do not seek to conquer. We wish to walk among the stars as friends, not as masters. We wish to learn, to share, and to stand when others think we will fall. Strength is not in crushing others. Strength is in rising together." The chamber was still. Many were surprised by her words. Some expected demands, others expected pride. Instead, they heard humility mixed with courage. Kura stepped forward and placed her hand on Lina's shoulder. Her deep voice carried across the hall. "I fought this human with all my power. She did not win with strength alone. She won with patience, with skill, and with a spirit that would not bend. If humans are like her, then they deserve not only respect but a place beside us." The words of a Zaric warrior carried weight. Whispers spread through the chamber. Some council members nodded, others still frowned. But none could dismiss what they had seen. The leader of the council spoke again. "Human Lena, your duel has changed the thoughts of many. You have shown that courage may rise from unexpected places. We will send word across the systems. Humans will be invited to join the Council of Meridian as observers. In time, perhaps. More." Lena bowed her head. "Thank you. I accept not for myself, but for all of my people." When they left the chamber, the crowds outside cheered again. News spread across the station and beyond. Humans were no longer hidden in the shadows of the galaxy. Their voice would now be heard. That night, Lena stood on a high balcony overlooking the stars. The endless black stretched before her, scattered with points of light. She thought of Earth, her quiet home world, far behind her. She wondered how her people would react when they learned that one duel had changed their place in the galaxy. Kura joined her. The tall warrior leaned against the railing, her eyes also fixed on the stars. For a while, neither spoke. At last, Kura said, "When I first saw you, I thought you were weak. I thought this duel would be over in moments. I was wrong. You showed me that strength is not always what we think. I will remember that lesson for the rest of my days." Lena gave a small smile. "And I will remember that even the strongest warrior can show respect." Today was not about victory. It was about understanding. Kura nodded slowly. "Perhaps one day our people will fight side by side, not against each other, but for something greater." They both looked into the stars. Neither knew what challenges lay ahead, but both knew something had changed. The galaxy was wide, full of dangers and mysteries. Yet now, humans were no longer silent observers. They were part of it, their courage proven. Far across the stars, messages were already flying to distant worlds. Some welcomed the news, others feared it. But all listened. The story of a single duel was spreading like fire in the dark, and with it, the name of humanity was being spoken with new respect. The duel was over, but its shadow stretched far. The true test of humans had only begun. The Council's decision spread like fire across the galaxy, on distant moons, in busy trade hubs, and even on quiet farming colonies, being spoke of the human who fought a Zaric warrior and won. Some praised Lina's courage, others doubted her victory, but no one could ignore it. For the first time, humans were being noticed beyond their small world. Lina walked the halls of Meridian Station with new purpose. Every step she took reminded her of the weight she now carried. She was not only Lina the fighter, she had become Lina the voice of humanity. It was a role she had never asked for, but one she could not refuse. One morning, she was called again to the great chamber of the council. The seats were filled with leaders from across the stars. The glowing map of the galaxy floated at the center. This time, however, there was a new addition. At the round table, a seat had been shaped for a human. It was simple, without gold or lights. But it was there. When Lina entered, the chamber grew quiet. The council leader, whose form shimmered like fire, spoke. Human Lina, the council has granted your people a voice among us. You will not yet cast votes, but you may speak, and we will listen. Do you accept this place? Lina looked at the seat. For a moment, she thought of her home world far away, where farmers still tended fields and children still played by rivers. Then she thought of the duel, the crowd, and the respect she had won. She nodded. I accept. Not for myself, but for Earth, for my people, and for the hope that we may walk among you as equals. The leader raised a hand. Then let it be known. Humanity has a voice in the Council of Meridian. The chamber shook with sound. Some clapped their hands or wings. Others tapped the floor with heavy limbs. Even those who were silent could not hide the fact that history had changed. After the meeting, Lina stepped into the wide halls. Crowds gathered again, but this time they did not only cheer. Many beings came forward with requests. Some asked for humans to send teachers. Others asked if humans would share stories of their world. A few even asked if humans would help in conflicts. Far from Earth. Lina listened with patience, but she knew she could not promise more than she was allowed. Still, she gave a simple answer. We will try. We may be small, but we are willing to learn and to stand beside those who respect us. That evening, she met with Kura. The Zaric warrior had remained at the station, watching the changes unfold. Kura's tall form leaned against a railing as she looked down at the glowing city below. When Lina joined her, Kura gave a small nod. You are no longer just a fighter, Kura said. You are becoming a symbol. That is a heavier burden than armor. Lina sighed. I feel it. I never wanted to be a symbol. I only wanted to stand for myself. But now, everything I do will be remembered as if it belongs to all humans. Kura placed a hand on Lina's shoulder, then carried it with honor. Symbols fade if they are selfish, but they live forever if they stand for truth. The words stayed. With Lina. Days turned into weeks. Messages arrived from Earth. Leaders from her own world sent thanks, though some worried that her actions had placed humans in danger. Ordinary people sent letters filled with pride and hope. Children drew pictures of her duel and sent them across the stars. For the first time, Earth was looking outward with confidence instead of fear. But the galaxy was not at peace. Beyond the Council's reach, there were whispers of rising threats. Pirate fleets were gathering in shadowed sectors. Old rivalries between empires stirred again. Some believed humanity would crumble if pulled into these struggles. Others believed humanity could surprise them all. One day, the council gathered again, this time with grim faces. A message had arrived from a distant colony. A fleet of raiders was moving through space, burning and stealing. They were heading toward a trade world under council protection. The silver-skinned representative spoke sharply. We must act. If we do not, many will suffer. The leader of the council turned to Lina. Human, you have been given a voice. What do you say? Should the council send its fleets, or will we risk delay? Every eye turned to her. The weight of many worlds rested on her shoulders. Lena stood, her heart steady, send the fleets. She said, not for power, not for pride, but for the lives of those who cannot fight for themselves. If the council exists for anything, it is for this. Her words struck the chamber with force. Many nodded in agreement. Even those who doubted humans could not deny the truth of her statement. The council voted, and the fleets were sent. When the decision was announced, some whispered that the human voice had already shaped the galaxy. Others whispered that if a single duel could lead to such power, humans must be watched carefully. But none could ignore that Lena's presence had made a difference. Later, Lena returned to the balcony where she often stood. The stars stretched wide before her. She thought of the journey she had taken, from a quiet girl on Earth to a fighter in an alien arena, and now to a voice in the Council of Meridian. Cora joined her once more. The warrior looked at her with respect. You fought me with strength. You faced the council with courage. Now you have guided the stars with wisdom. That is more than most can claim. Lena smiled softly. I did not do it alone. I had help. From you, from those who believed in me, and from the spirit of my people. Humanity may be small, but we are not silent. We will never be silent again. They stood together, looking out at the endless sky. Far away, fleets moved to defend them. Weak, far away, new voices began to speak of humans not as strangers but as allies. And so the duel that began as a test between two fighters had become something far greater. It had opened a door that could never be closed. Humanity had taken its first step into the vast story of the stars, and though challenges would come, one truth was clear. Humans would stand, humans would endure, humans would rise.